Get into this lesson, kind of bear with me. Got like a little head cold, so it's kind of like, man. Anyway, the work must continue. So, what you're looking at is a more accurate depiction of who you know as Apostle Paul. And he, pursuant to the book, what's that, Acts, that he was mistaken, he's mistaken for an Egyptian. And the Egyptians were dark skinned people, brown to dark skinned people. So, this will be a more accurate depiction of as Apostle Paul. And Apostle Paul in the so-called New Testament was only addressing Israelites. That's it. Nothing never changed. Now, what they have done is reimagine the Bible through the perspective of a so-called white person. So the whole Bible is only for the Israelites. So let's get into this lesson. I'm going to show you examples and examples of this over and over. So first off, these books, let me show you something first. What Christianity does. So they'll go to the book of like Galatians, and they'll make it apply to the whole Christian church. But the book of Galatians and all the books was addressed to Israelites that were scattered in these various places. I'm going to prove that to you. First off, let's go to this Galatians. So what a Christian pastor or a Christian will do, they'll go to like say Galatians 3:28, which they don't understand what this means. They'll go right here. Just or any other scripture, just go to Galatians 3:20. None of this gonna make sense to someone that's not an Israelite. If you read this, the Bible and actually study it, this only pertaining to the nation of Israel. So let's go to 3:28. It says, "There's neither Jew nor Greek." So you got to be very analytical when you go into these scriptures, and you got to have the eye for detail. So why didn't it say if a Christian, they have gave the interpretation that this scripture is talking about so-called white people because they see the word Greek. But and our people have followed that pattern as well because of their ignorance. But what they don't understand, these Greeks were Israelites. Some of them knew they was Israelites. Most of them did not know they was Israelites. So that history will be found in the book of the Maccabees, and that's the reason why that's one of the main reasons why they took up the Apocrypha out of the King James Version Bible and said it was an inspired canon. These devils. It says there's neither Jew nor Greek. Why did it say this? Because these Israelites, and the book in the Maccabees, Antiochus was an Edomite that put a decree out that they couldn't call themselves Israelites. So they couldn't call themselves Israelites, they had to call themselves Greeks. Israelites. It says there is let me make another point. Why didn't it say all the other nations, the whole world? Why didn't it list all the original 18 nations here? Because it's only talking about Israelites. There is neither bond nor free. There's neither male nor female. For ye are all one in Yahweh HaMashiach. So let me show you something. The Christian read this and to make it apply to the Christian church. They don't know none of this history. These Christians are just gullible and blind. So if I wrote you a personalized letter, that letter can be applied to no one else besides you, so you can understand. So if someone picked up that letter and tried to make it apply to them, they're insane. Galatians chapter 1:1. It says, Paul, an apostle, not of men, neither by man, by Yahweh Mashiach, and Yahweh, the Father, who raised him from the dead, showing us a separation from the Son and the Father. It says, too, to all the brethren which are with me unto the churches of Galatia. So let's go to this word churches. I'm going to show you something. And when you go to this word churches, it's why you have to look words up. You have to be studious so you can come out of ignorance. And so someone can't lie to you. So when you go to this word churches, and the Strong's Concordance is G1577, when you go look this word up, let's get straight to the point. It says two at the very top. Assembly of the Israelites. I bet you didn't know this. This is what the word churches means. So when you go into what the 7 churches, I think in the book of, what's that, Revelation, if I'm not mistaken, but them churches was talking about assembly of the Israelites. They weren't talking about what you have envisioned in your mind as a modern day Christian church. That's completely madness. Um, so let me see something else. Something else I want to put you up on. So let's go back to Galatians chapter 1 and 1. So thus moving forward, everything in Galatians, the book of Galatians, is only addressed to the audience, which were the Israelites in Galatia. So can't no Christian come and try to make any of these books apply to them or apply to the Christian church. And that's how you've been taught. Let's keep going. And sometimes you'll see, let's go to Romans, um, the book of Romans 1 and 1. It says, Paul, a servant of Yahushua Mashiach, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of power, Yahweh. Let's get straight to the point. So this actually is let me get straight to the point. Right here, 7. It says, to all that be at Rome. So a Christian will read this and thinking it's talking about so-called white people, but these Jakes will read this and think it's talking about so-called white people, but that's not true. Beloved of Yahweh, called to be saints. This is a very important detail and important not to you because it'll make you understand the rest of the Bible in the so-called New Testament. It was only dealing with the nation of Israel. Was not Apostle Paul an Israelite from the tribe of Benjamin? Hebrew Israelite. And he didn't, he didn't call himself black Hebrew Israelite. That black stigma was put on you from your enemy, the so-called white man, because the word black means ugly, dumb, untrustworthy, evil, wicked, sinister. It says, grace to you and peace from Yahweh, our Father, and Yahweh Shah Mashiach. So that means the book of Romans is dealing with the Israelites that were in Rome. The modern day, America, how it's set up today by being a melting pot. Ancient Rome was the same way. You had all these different nations coming there like they flocked to America. Let's get into this. Brought to you by Chat GPT. It says, great question. Yes, in the Bible, the word saints. That's why you have to go into words. And that's going back into the Deuteronomy 7 and 6, when he said, we're above all nations. You're a holy people. Holy is the interchangeable with saints. I'm going to prove that. It says Hebrew Kodash. Kodash. It ain't no O there. It's an A. Kodash. Holy ones. Separate, set apart ones. It says Greek equals holy, a consecrated. So the word saints is talking about the Israelites, set apart. That's what it means, holy ones. That's why Yahweh said we are holy people, which Jacob take that to the extreme, and they'll start to think Jacob bug out. What that word holy means is just separate from all the nations, and what made us separate, the statute, laws, commandments, our customs. It says it's most often referred to the Israelites who were set apart by Yahweh. Saints are not separate class of people like the Catholic Church later defined. You hear this? They redefine what the word means. But simply God's chosen people who were sanctified by his covenant, which are the Israelites. So this, when you go here to make this make sense, and all the books are like this, it says Romans 1 and 7, to all that be in Rome, beloved of Yahweh. So they're going to show you it's not talking about no heathens. And Rome was a melting pot. You had a lot of Jakes that was in Rome like they in America. Called to be saints. So this is specific talking about the Israelites. So you couldn't go to Romans, just say chapter 2, and make it apply to the Christian church or to you. No, it's only addressed to the Israelites. Remember, if I wrote you a personalized letter, if somebody else picks that letter up and read it, it don't apply to them. So that's the analogy that I'm using. So the book of Romans was written to the Israelites that was in Rome, right? And that means thus everything moving forward in the book of Romans is only talking about the Israelites. So you couldn't go to no chapter 2 and was done and executed in the Christian church and they'll make it apply to anybody. No, that's bugged out. Let's keep going. Psalms 50 and 5. And I don't know what versions these is. I'm just going to read them. It says, gather my saints together unto me, those that I have made a covenant with by with me by sacrifice. So the only people that he made a covenant with was the Israelites. And you see that word saints there in covenant. It's letting you know that the Israelites are called saints. No other nations. And it's not the redefinition of what the word means today in a Roman Catholic sense. No, the saints are the Israelites, point blank, period. So thus these books in the so-called New Testament, when it say brethren and when it say saints, so on and so forth, these letters was addressed to Israelites that were scattered in these particular places. Can't make it more simpler than that. Who made a covenant with Yahweh by sacrifice? The Israelites. It even got the reference scripture right here, Exodus 24, 3-8. It says Psalms 148 and 14. He also exalted the horn of his people. Who is his people? Personalized pronoun. The Israelites. The praise of all his saints, the Israelites. Even the children of Israel, a people near unto him. So this is called a henditrition. It's three by the means of one. So these three different phrases is talking about the same people. It says saints equal children of Israel. It says Deuteronomy 33, 2-3. The Lord Yahweh from Sinai, from his right hand went a fiery law from them. Yea, he loved the people. All his saints are in thy hand. It says this is talking about the Israelites receiving the law at Mount Sinai, which, there was a chariot and all that. So let's go to Daniel 7 and 27. It says, and the kingdom and dominion shall be given to the people of these saints of the Most High, which would be the Israelites. Saints is interchangeable with holy people and Israelites. It's all one and the same. So these letters was written to Israelites that were scattered in these places. Can't make it no clearer than that. You can't twist and turn the scriptures and make them be what you want them to be. Whose kingdom is an everlasting kingdom. It says the people of the saints are Israel, who inherit the kingdom. Romans 1 and 7, it says that's where I just came from. To all that be in Rome, beloved of Yahweh, called to be saints. Paul is writing to Israelites in Rome who were called out of the nations, right? Romans 9, 3-4 clarify who Israel is. Ephesians. So it's every single book in the so-called New Testament is dealing with the Israelites. And all the disciples were Israelites. Paul was an Israelite. So on and so forth. It says Ephesians 1 and 1 and through 18. It says, to the saints which are at Ephesus, and to the faithful of Hamashiach Yahushua, Paul addresses Israelites scattered in Ephesus as saints. Right here, same thing. Revelation, I read 1 and 2. Let's go to 3. Revelations 14:12. Here's the patience of the saints. It's not talking about the Christian church. It ain't talking about the Roman Catholic ideal of these different saints, these different idols that they deified and that they worship, which is idolatry. No, talking about the Israelites. It says, here are they that keep the commandments of Yahweh, so the law ain't done away with, and the faith of Yahweh Shah Mashiach. It's a combination, but we totally rest in Yahweh Shah, but faith without works is dead. If you say you believe into the Most High, you're going to have some works to follow you. That's keeping the laws to the best of your abilities, the ones you can keep. It says saints. It says those who keep God's commandments. Israelites were given the commandments, Psalms 147, 19-20. I mean, let's go here. And the Spirit is guiding me right now to go to this right here. You know what I'm saying? 2 Corinthians. So all these books you see is the same pattern. It says 2 Corinthians, Paul, an apostle of Yahushua Mashiach, by the will of Yahweh, Timothy, our brother, unto the church, which we know the word church means assembly of the Israelites of Yahweh, which are at Corinth. Look Corinth up on the map. This is a physical place. With all these saints, all the Israelites, which are all in Achilla, whatever. However they're gonna say that. But it goes on and on. Hebrews 1 and 1. You even got a book called the book of Hebrews. Hebrew Israelites. Come on. And it goes on and on. You go to all the books, it's the same way, right? And then you got the disciples which did they books, did they works, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, as you see, Book of Matthew, so on and so forth. Hopefully this lesson was edifying. Call Allah Yahweh Bahashim, Yahushua, Bahashim, Rachak Wadash.